Welcome to the Prototyping Show. We are prototyping engineers who work with customers and innovators across the globe to envision the art of the possible. We deliver groundbreaking solutions and services on the AWS cloud. With our guests, we explore the mechanisms that drive technology innovation, get hands-on with AWS technologies, and discuss the latest and most interesting developments in the world of AWS Cloud. This is the Prototyping Show.
And it looks like here we are. Charles, great to be with you this evening. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm going very, very well. I'm live from Hanoi in Vietnam at the moment, so doing very well. Happy to be finally live. Talk a lot about it, so very, very cool.
Yeah, we are finally live, and I'm joining from a very cool evening in Melbourne, Australia. So welcome everybody to the Prototyping Show. This is a piece of work that we have been working on for a while, and we're absolutely delighted to have you with us today. And we hope you're going to stay with us throughout our seasons and our episodes. I'm here this evening with my lovely hot cup of coffee, my bottle of water, and the fantastic Charles from AWS. Charles, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, so I'm Charles. I'm based in ASEAN, usually in Singapore, but I have the pleasure to look after all the other ASEAN countries. So very excited to be here. I've been working in the innovation landscape for the last 16 years or so across industries, going from counterterrorism, military, to startups, built a few startups in the region. And yes, with a common stream of work around AI automation. And currently, I'm working at AWS, obviously, and leading the prototyping program in ASEAN. So very cool. What about you, Mark?
Awesome. Yeah, so I have a background primarily in telco. I've been with AWS for, I think, this week, 7 years, which seems to have gone in the blink of an eye. So I'm lucky enough to work with awesome people like yourself and our guest, Sara, who's going to join us a little bit later. And also fantastic people who are working with us behind the scenes this evening and the morning or the evening, wherever you are. We have Martin, who's working behind the scenes. And we also have Derek with us as well. So as I said, my background, primarily telco. I have a pleasure to work and lead the prototyping team for AWS across Asia, Pacific, and Japan. It's an absolute honor, and I hope we have many of our customers joining us over the coming weeks and months as we progress and grow what we hope to be a really interesting and exciting live stream on a monthly basis. So, Charles, what are we going to cover in the Prototyping Show?
Well, in general, so obviously this first show is a little bit unusual. We'll need to find our marks. But in general, I find you though. But in general, we will try to make it very obviously developer oriented, but not only. We really want to discuss about what we call the art of prototyping in general, because I think we have a very unique approach about handling experimentations, and we want to share that with the community. We want also to have different segments. We have a segment about sharing anecdotes, or we failed so you don't have to for example, where again, I think the name is a safe explanatory. We have another role about Git commit. So we're trying to bring a little bit of technical elements to a little bit of fun. We're gonna have also some hands-on activities. I don't think we have planned that for today, but for the future sessions. So yeah, we want to make that interactive. People should send us emails about things they would like potentially us to consider or to talk about or dive deep into and so on. So yeah, I think that summarized a little bit. It's going to be a work in progress, like my life, but we will get there. That's why I said to myself.
I think all our lives are a work in progress, Charles. That's super interesting. I'd love to hear from everybody, and we're seeing people flood in from all over the world. We've got people joining from India, from Singapore, from Saudi Arabia. It's incredibly exciting. From Korea, we've got other people from Melbourne, people from Perth. So this is awesome, and I'd love to hear from everybody around what would be really interesting for you. Pop it into the comments. We also have an email address, theprototypingshow@amazon.com. I'd encourage everybody to reach out to us and use that. I also showed before that we have a pretty basic but growing website, www.theprototypingshow.com. So feel free to go there and have a look at the content that we're sharing there as well. So Charles, I was really interested. You mentioned a thing in there about code commits. What is that? What are we going to talk about in that code commit piece?
Well, I'm guessing everyone is familiar with Git, or should definitely get familiar within the next 12 hours. So yes, usually when you commit your source code to the repository, you need to put a comment so people understand what you have done, what is a change. So if you have conflict with people uploading different kind of chunks of code, you are able to figure out what each part does. And that's the happy path. The reality is that very often things don't really work the way they're supposed to. So yes, we have some fun commits or fun comments actually on top of that, and we'll try to share some of the funny ones that we have found, or some that people will share with us. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. I've seen some fantastic ones. And hey, we've got some new visitors, one from the Netherlands. So I'll say goedemorgen. I lived in the Netherlands for nearly 11 years. So it's great to have you on board. And Charles, we have a Parisian join us.
Yeah, bonjour. Merci d'être avec nous. Finally, someone who's going to understand my accent. I was wondering how many people will just try to hit the sound system, imagining that something was wrong. No, don't worry, it's just my accent.
Fantastic.
Myanmar also. Very nice.
Wow. We feel really privileged to have everybody join us. Code commit. We often do see really funny and interesting code commits. I'm looking forward to seeing those. And again, if people have funny or interesting code commits that they want to share with us, please let us know.
Hey, just a disclaimer, Mark. Sorry, I just want to do a disclaimer. It's not because we have a code commit challenge that you need to start writing random stuff into your try to fit the best practices in general. Please, we don't want to be responsible for a disaster.
Exactly. So, Charles, when I was privileged enough to be asked to lead the program for AWS prototyping, I had very little idea what prototyping was. And I got to work with an incredible lady who's been a great mentor for me and really helped us to shape up the program in APJ and really helped us drive benefits and outcomes for our customers. Who is our special guest today?
We are very, very lucky, yes, to have our global program lead. We have Sara Armstrong here with us today. Sara, we're absolutely sorry for the torture. It's 2 a.m. on your side. It's a little bit of a payback for all the other meetings going the other way around.
I was going to say.
We're very happy to have you. Thank you so much for making the time.
Hey, there's no accounting for technology, huh? You know what they say. So Sarah has frozen. Oh, she's back. There you go. There's Sarah. Fantastic.
So Sarah, you want to introduce yourself a little bit to us? I mean, us, we know you obviously, but to the people watching the stream.
Sure. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. And as Mark mentioned, super exciting to see folks joining from so many different places around the world. I probably won't have many people joining from my neck of the woods here because I'm in Silicon Valley and it's, I think, 2:00 in the morning. But as you said, it's a global team and a global program. So we often talk to each other at the wee hours so that we have the opportunity to collaborate. As I mentioned, coming to you from California, I have also a background in technology. I started my career as a software developer, came up through engineering management, but I always loved working directly with customers. And so early on in my career, I developed a love for experimentation and using prototyping and experimentation and very rapid engagements with customers to really show them the art of the possible. And that's what we do here at AWS in our prototyping team. We have teams all over the world that do these kinds of rapid experiments with our customers to showcase, like you said, Charles, the art of the possible on AWS.
That's super cool. Yeah. And just before we enter into more details, actually, I think that it's important to mention that obviously you're our program lead, but you also have a super cool podcast, the prototyping,
Innovation Ambassador.
I'm sorry, see, my memory is defaulting, but yes, the Innovation Ambassador, and that's something we really highly recommend people to check, either on all the streaming platforms also.
Oh, well, thank you for the shameless promotion. I just, it's one,
shameless, yes.
yeah, it's actually, one of the favorite parts of my job is like I said, always loved working directly with customers and hearing directly from customers the work that teams like yours and Mark's and folks all around the world are doing to help innovate on behalf of their customers and users. It is just so exciting. The innovation that's happening around the world is just amazing. And the work that your team is doing. I've talked to some of your customers. I've talked to Mark's customers. Just really great.
So Sarah, when we kind of embarked on this journey,
yeah,
what were we thinking about in terms of what prototyping is? It is an art? Is it a science? Like, what really is it? And maybe then we can talk about what we've learned along that journey of figuring that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Prototyping to me really brings those key elements of innovation together. It's a focus on real world challenges, right? We don't do prototyping engagements just to try things out. We work directly with customers on their real world needs, right? How are they innovating on behalf of their user base? It's also about a bias for speed. We talk about the agility and the ability of the cloud and the ability to do things quickly, to try and test things out and sometimes fail, as you have a segment on, right? And also competencies in emerging technology. We're often at the forefront of innovation, working with our newer and emerging services, new features, often in machine learning, serverless, IoT, blockchain, all of that. Now you're getting all excited.
You're giving me shivers. I want to start coding.
Yeah, exactly. The confluence also of those technologies, right? Almost nothing is just a pure machine learning play. You also have, you've got IoT, you've got serverless, you've got security layered in there. So there's that confluence of different services and domain areas that we're working on. And really underpinning the prototyping approach is that idea of experiential learning, of learning by doing, right? Like we actually get in there, and that's the whole point of this podcast, getting in there and building together with our customers, right? We can all learn by reading and listening to podcasts and things like that, but there's nothing that technologists like better than to actually get their hands on keyboards and actually do the work themselves, right? And of course, then we also have that working backwards approach to what we do here at AWS. This is our practice for how we stay customer obsessed, focusing on what the customers need, and really staying laser focused on finding out what that customer opportunity is and addressing it. So that's really what we're trying to do with prototyping, right? And as you said, it's really more of an art or craft than a predictive sort of, here's exactly what the steps are that you have to take. We're often going in, and you know this by working directly with customers, right? We're often going into situations where we might have an idea of what might work, but oftentimes we're experimenting and finding that, okay, the thing that our assumptions might have been wrong, or we have to take a little bit of a different approach. So, there's always learnings to be gained, and new patterns that emerge as we're working with customers.
Yeah. It's been really interesting for me to see how we think about that working backwards, right? And as technologists, and we're all technologists, as you said, we love getting our hands on keyboards. You said serverless, and I went, oh, let's go. But we don't want to spend development cycles and our efforts just experimenting, right? So we have to really kind of deeply understand that business problem,
right. Yeah,
and work with our business stakeholders to help them actually move the business forward and address something that's really material and concrete, in a way that's kind of small enough to prove value, but large enough to be meaningful to the business. So finding that sweet spot is really, I think, the first step.
so true. Yep, absolutely. And really, because our prototyping engagements are time boxed, right? We're doing these engagements in 3 to 8 weeks. So really honing in on the area and addressing the area of uncertainty for customers, because there's lots of engineering that can be done and cool code that can be written that follows a pattern, as you said. And so that part is, can be left for the implementation during production. What we try to focus on is where those areas of uncertainty are. Can we get the scale that we need? Can we get the latency that is required for a particular workload? Can we optimize for cost in a way that's efficient and actually would make something, reasonable to put into production, right? So those are the kind of areas that we're constantly looking at. Can we get the level and can we get the predictions out of the machine learning models to the level that we need to actually operationalize something? So those are the things that we're looking to address. And as you said, starting with what is the challenge? What is it that we're trying to address? And working backwards from there, identifying those areas of technology that are uncertain, and the approach that's uncertain, and then laying that foundation for our customers' journey to production.
It is very interesting to me, because when I hear you, and I fully agree, it reminds me we have a very practical way to do research and development, actually. Because when you're looking, so in Europe for a couple of years, and in the US and Canada also, they had a lot of fundings to support innovation, and the problem was always innovation research versus research and development. And the common pattern was to look at the manual of Frascati, which was defining innovation as a smart use of technology versus research and development, where you were actually, the iteration process was quite important, because you had a state of the art, you had some tools available, and building on top of that by making small experiment was really what was a differentiator. So I find back this common theme to all those R&D kind of type of activity.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is at AWS we don't have an innovation center, right? We consider all of us to be innovators, all of us to be builders, right? And infusing that into the culture is one of the, I think, beautiful things I love about working at Amazon. And then I love hearing how our customers have taken that same approach, to be bold in their vision and then realistic and practical in the implementation approach, and iterate and experiment and move forward with that vision.
Yeah, one of the things we say, don't we, is that we want to be a really deliberate and intentional and focused on a strategy, but be really flexible in our tactics around.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I love that. And particularly in prototyping, right? Because oftentimes we're working on what sometimes we call tomorrow's workloads today, right? Where there's not a defined pattern necessarily, and so we're trying to find that pattern, and we have to experiment. And sometimes we run up against roadblocks. In the podcast that we do with customers on Innovation Ambassadors, we often talk about almost every single episode. We talk about what went wrong. What was the unexpected, and sometimes that's technology, right? We thought we could use a particular approach, and we weren't able to do that, or sometimes that's really a shift in culture, right? That comes right alongside that technology transformation, is the cultural transformation that happens when you introduce new technologies, whether that's migrating to the cloud for the first time, whether that's for our coders here, whether it's going to DevOps or Agile or
you're getting me all excited again, Sarah.
Now you're like, okay, let's go write some code. You have to do that while maintaining an empathy for what's come before, right? Understanding the context that you're coming into, and bringing the folks on your team along with you on that journey. So I think that's a really important aspect of what I know all of our teams try to deliver with our customers.
Yeah, that empathy, I think is really important. And one of the things that I always talk about is that, we need to have a really good, healthy respect for the heritage that a lot of organizations have, and they've become incredibly successful. So I think, the art of prototyping is it's not necessarily about challenging the norm, and, we need to respect the norm, but it is very much around finding ways to work within that culture, within that heritage. And, and we've taken a really interesting approach, and maybe Charles, exactly. We just had a comment here. It's about soft skills. And I think that is very much the case.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that we found to be sort of really powerful in the art, as opposed to the science, is when we think about working backwards, is really trying to capture the essence of the business problem in a few key areas, right? We call those solution spaces. And do that in a way that doesn't presuppose technology, which is really hard for us technologists, and then be able to replay that back to stakeholders and other people around the business so they can go, yes, you really do understand the problem, and you understand what good looks like from a business outcome. And then we work with the engineers and the developers in the customer to then work forward to that outcome. And identify the technology along the way. And as you said before, we're going to have maybe some successes and maybe some failures. And it's possible that it's such a big challenge that we actually don't get there. But even not getting there is a positive outcome, because
it's a learning.
Now, you've learned what doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen a lot that disconnection sometimes between the tech and the business actually is something that will slow down the adoption, or will slow down I know specifically well the machine learning field, and machine learning project very often don't move forward because they were not connected from the beginning. And that's something I think I really appreciate in the approach, or in the way we are working with customers, and seeing them after taking that across the whole organization is pretty cool, actually, to see.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking as you were talking, Mark, is I said that we do these really high velocity engagements, right? Prototypes are 3 to 8 weeks, but that's the build phase, right? And of course, we're like, okay, the part where you're actually hands to keyboards building, but really, there's a long tail on both sides, right? And that could take weeks or maybe months sometimes, and not like working 8 hours a day, but really in that discovery process of what's actually needed. Sometimes when we get a request for a prototyping engagement from our colleagues, the assumption will be that it's for a particular area. And as we dive deeper and peel back those layers, and as you said, talk to the business stakeholders, and understand what they are trying to build, then emerges really what that core area is that we're going to address. So there's a whole long process that happens, isn't there, before we start to actually get to the coding part, right? And that process is also fun, right? Because you're working with technology stakeholders, you're working with business stakeholders, you're sometimes even bringing people together in larger companies who haven't necessarily talked to each other, right? And bringing people into that same room and having that laser focus on what that customer need is and what you're going to try to build, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You make it sound like we're almost matchmakers.
Exactly.
So one of the things that is important, and you kind of alluded to or headed in that direction with your comments there, was once you do move into that development phase, how do you do that quickly? And how do you do that with sort of certainty and confidence, not necessarily of the outcome, because we've said, prototyping is experimental and experiential, but confidence that you can build, right? And I know our teams internally and a lot of our customers focus on internal tooling and capability. What role do you see that playing within our customers, and maybe even the broader industry as a whole? Tooling for success.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you say that, because I was thinking about it from a programmatic perspective, right? So we have teams all around the world that are dedicated to doing these high velocity engagements with our customers, but they don't report to me, right? You don't report to me, Mark. It's a community, right? And so balancing alignment and agility is something that we do at the global level of, like, how do you allow for and really inspire and help cultivate and foster this this innovation and experimentation even within the program, and then balance that out with some alignment and consistency. And because I'm a software developer by heart, I believe in tools, and we have a saying at Amazon that it's not about best intentions, it's about mechanisms, right? So we could say, we really want to continue to raise the bar on security and always safeguard and continue to inspect and iterate on our security best practices, right? But the way you do that is through mechanisms. And so that experimentation and that spirit of building and creating and inventing in the field is something that we do also with our tools, right? We have a number of internal tools we use to not only increase the efficiency of our engagements with customers during prototyping, but also make sure we have those safeguards in place. And those tools have often been developed by one of the individual teams, and then adopted worldwide, continually, again, iterated on. So we're sort of drinking our own champagne here in terms of innovation and prototyping for our own program as well.
Yeah, very much so. And I think one of the things we're trying to do more of is get some of our learnings from a technology perspective out there in the hands of our customers, sort of at scale, right? And one way of doing that is through open source. And we had a really great question around here about what tooling and resources are we making available. And one that we just made available recently is what we call the PDK, which is the prototyping development kit. So I've just posted a link here. And what we've done is we've taken some of our
the information was so important that he got dropped.
His microphone got overheated. Is that what happened?
Overexcited.
It's so exciting. That's right. I mean, Mark was talking about open source, and we talked a little bit about those patterns that emerge, and that we're sometimes finding as we do prototyping. And so we absolutely have both patterns and some development kits that we've open sourced to make available. And Mark was about to share the link to the PDK UI frameworks that we use to do rapid UI that just makes it a little bit faster and easier, right? When you have just a common UI framework to start from. But your team has done quite a bit of work in that area, Charles, haven't you?
Absolutely. Mark, you want to do the announcement again? Or you're scared for your internet?
As Derek just said, everything fails all the time, right? You design for failure.
True.
So everybody out there, when you're building, multi-AZ, multi-region is the way to go. But unfortunately, I'm single-homed with one internet connection at home, and probably kids watching 80 megabits a second of some streaming media service. Sarah, we had a question come through, which is, could you share your definition? The art of the possible. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times what I love is when we hear from customers, when they say, I had this bold vision, or what we'd call it, Amazon, the think big idea, right? But I wasn't really sure it was actually possible. So this notion of thinking big, but using technology and an understanding of what's available in our cloud services to actually implement that, right? So really it's boiling down. It's not about necessarily, as you said, Charles, completely inventing a completely new way of doing everything, right? We have foundational knowledge and patterns that we can apply to new problem areas. So I think of that art of the possible as how are we innovating within and utilizing what's come before us, right? And what is available on the cloud and what's available in our technology services, to accomplish something new.
That's awesome. And it reminds me, because we talked about the PDK, but we are also, a part of the art of the possible is when you connect that with the fundamental idea at Amazon to reduce the
undifferentiated heavy lifting.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult for a French person to pronounce.
Now, Charles, three times in French, please.
I would not even know how to say it in French, very frankly. But if you're taking remove that from the equation, and then again building the art of the possible, we are also providing solutions. So we are really contributing to the community. Also, I'm thinking obviously because it's what my team has done, and it's absolutely amazing. We've built the hyperlocal, the last mile delivery solution that we have built.
Yep.
Which is really a very modern problems about delivering and optimization and so on. And we have open source that. So I'm not doing a shameful advertisement here, but it is true that the contribution showing to people also what is the art of the possible and get them actually to take a part of that and be able to integrate it within their own business, their own ID and so on is very, very specific also to what we are doing, I believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can we have a demo of the PDK? You get people excited.
Oh yeah, you got people excited, Mark, and then you dropped off. So they.
I'm such a tease. Sorry, everybody. But the good news is the developers of the PDK will be coming on the prototyping show, and
Nice.
they're going to do a deep dive. They're going to do a live demo and walk us through. So we'll get that out in October for you. That's on our schedule. So please come back and join us for that episode. Sarah, we know it's really early in the morning for you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for sharing your insights. I think everybody really enjoyed it. Thank you again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I'm super excited. I'll probably have to listen to most of these. I won't be joining you live for most of these, but I'm super excited to hear from the community about what they're, interested in learning and their own learnings and experiences. I can see the thread of folks, saying yes, that they see that, sharing their own insights. So really excited for the program, and congratulations to you and Charles on your first podcast here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for joining.
It's my pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye. Very cool.
Wow. That was very cool. She's so amazing. Hey, Charles, we had a really great question. If I can click the right button, that came in. Do we have any ideas how to generate new innovation to already mature products? I'm going to try and pronounce this. Like Cantwood has an innovation sprint in their organization once a quarter, and they struggle to find really cool stuff to try out. How are we seeing people deal with this challenge, or organizations?
I mean, maybe one of the first questions I would ask is that what are the challenges with the current solutions? Because innovating doesn't necessarily justify the effort. So if it's because there is limitations, I don't know, I'm saying random things, but in terms of latency, in terms of performances and so on, then that start justifying the effort. Then after that, obviously, should we mention about working backward, trying to identify the problem instead, getting from the problem, and usually customer problems, and getting back to all the steps that really helps to qualify the problems, the nature of the problems, and basically really identifying the scope of the potential change. We always keep the technology as the last piece, because again, we are flexible also on the technology as long as you address the real problems. If you can skip machine learning by doing some rule-based analysis, it is perfectly fine. So I would say probably try to identify if there is a problem, if there is area of enhancement, and then start thinking about what are theirs, how do those potential issue reflect on the customer, and then start looking backward and that would be my 2 cents. What about you, Mark?
So I wake up every day, sometimes later than I should, probably late for a call, and I say I'm going to innovate every day. No, actually, I don't do that. Innovation is not something you wake up and you say, today I'm going to innovate. As Sarah was kind of pointing out, innovation really becomes powerful when it's ingrained in the organizational culture. Hackathons and those sort of activities are awesome, and they absolutely have a place. But innovation is a cultural aspect of an organization. So to those of you who are struggling with it, I would say have a look at the organization, have a look at the challenges the organization is facing. Think about the people and your stakeholders. Think about what is the smallest quantum of business challenge or opportunity that you can easily pick up, develop, deliver value off the back of that development. Do that really quickly. And you'll start to very quickly build what we call a flywheel, right? So think about innovation as a mechanism, as a element of the culture, rather than something you wake up and say, right, this quarter we're going to innovate or we're going to brainstorm ideas. I think in its true essence, from my experience, it really is about just identifying that smallest little unit of value that you can bring an organization in a real problem, right? So we don't want solutions looking for problems. We want problems or opportunities that we can bring, that we can solve. So if we can have that mindset, pick off a small piece of that, deliver value, and then quickly iterate with fast follow features, functionality, capability, scale, resiliency, etc. Never sacrifice security. That's job zero. Then I think you very quickly earn trust within the organization, and that flywheel starts to become quite meaningful and powerful. I mean, that's kind of my 2 cents worth, and the way that we see a lot of successful organizations dealing with it. We had a great comment here. Fixing a problem is not innovating. Creating something new or a different, better way is innovating. And I think that is, true to an extent. So I think it comes down to the definition of what we mean by a problem. And sometimes it's too strictly held, that definition. So by a problem or fixing a problem, it might be addressing an opportunity. So we want to think about it in sort of broader terms rather than saying there is an issue and we have to bring a solution to it. We want to identify an opportunity or an area of growth within our businesses or our teams or our processes or our mechanisms or our products and services, and then bring that innovation flywheel of small incremental improvement over time is important. It's better to get a small piece out the door that addresses a small element of a problem and then driving it faster and faster over time than waiting for 6 or 8 months where the organization or a customer holds their breath, right? So we want to release small, release fast, but also release meaningfully and securely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Fixing a bug is not innovating. I think we can all agree on that.
Hey, that's what I call innovating. That's about the best I can do. and actually, if you ask the team, whenever I touch code, it's nothing but a bug. So I would agree with that comment. So Charles, it's been awesome so far. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and it's great to see the interaction from those out there as well. And I'm kind of blown away by how wide and far this has gone, so quickly in terms of geography. It's
well,
incredible.
I thought it would be you and I thought it would be just you and I. So I'm already and Martin, obviously, as a
Exactly. But we did kind of do a teaser before to everybody where we said we're going to talk a little bit about
the code commit challenge.
Challenge. Yeah. So I guess, the intent of this one, Charles, is that we don't drive it. We're going to bootstrap it today.
Absolutely.
But we would love you all to send us in the weirdest, craziest, most bizarre, most confusing, funniest code commit that you may have seen in your code. So why don't I share our code commit challenge, and we can see
our first winner.
Well, yeah. So let's see what it looks like.
And by the way, Cardi was mentioning that obviously it's not a bug; it's just a random feature, which is a
random feature. Awesome. So, Charles, I don't know what these changes are supposed to accomplish, but somebody told me to make them.
Well, it's a little bit of a fair point. A little bit, maybe not that great in terms of dive deep, in terms of understanding the problem and what has been done, but why not? I would not be surprised to see some of our teammates to do those great and informative commit. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a funny side to it, but there's also...
I could have write it down, yes.
But there's also a serious side to it, right? That, as developers, when we're thinking about solving a problem or addressing a challenge, we want to know why we're doing it, not just at the high level, but every change of code, every line of code. And when I think about how we develop at Amazon and AWS, we quite often will have very strong technical opinions around how to go about something, right?
Yes.
So, no, that would never happen, right?
We're not like that. And here we go. We lost Mark again. So it's all you and me, guys. I don't know when Mark is gonna come back, but
Well, I'm back. That was a chosen one. Am I back?
Yeah. You have a microphone issue now. It needed to happen after all the tests we have done, technology validation this week. It needed to happen at some point. So I'm glad it's after Sarah.
Well, hopefully you can now hear me.
No, there is a robotic voice, which is good for a tech podcast, but maybe not ideal.
So let's see. Hopefully that's better, Charles.
I'm sorry, Robot Mark. What did you say?
So can you hear me? You keep going, Charles. I'm going to reset my
You need to reset. Okay, great timing. Again, it need to happen. I mean, so yes, no worries. Reset the mic, Mark. It was absolutely expected. I'm absolutely amazed we did it 45 minutes without any technical issue yet, except a little bit of a bump here and there, but we're not that bad. So yeah. So on that comment, I like also the fact it's somebody told me. So like the person has absolutely zero clue on who she's working with, what she's working on. It's a total discovery of is this live? Yes, Derek, this is live. Yes, absolutely.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Success.
More
Hey,
technology.
you know what? Technology, right? You would think after 2.5 years, literally, of working from home, we would have this absolutely sorted. But that's the way it is. So yeah, my apologies. I'll try and do better, or I'll punish my children for using some streaming service while I need the bandwidth. So that's the code commit challenge, right? It'd be awesome to see people share their code commits over time, or not their code commits, but code commits they've found maybe in their code. We don't want you to share your code; that's yours. But we would like to see those code commits comments coming in. So for me, that's a bit of fun. I kind of really.
I'm sorry,
really
I need to stop you here, Mark. There is an amazing one, actually, a code commit. Look, from a growing heart. So apparently this is a real one. It said, "I hope this works. I'm hungry and this is late." This is this is the best and most acceptable justification of.
I agree. Certainly for me, food trumps code, and you can't see me below the waist. But if you could see me, you would understand. You'd understand why. And we've absolutely all been there. It's awesome. I love that one. So hopefully that was a bit of fun, and people enjoyed that. So we'd love you all to share your funny code commits when you join us next time. Send us an email so we can get those. Join us, and we'd be happy to share some of those as we go on. Hey, Charles, what's next?
And don't hesitate to comment them also, by the way. You can put it and why it makes you laugh, or if you can identify to it and so on. Also, that's quite cool to have other people's opinion also of that. Sorry, what did you ask, Mark?
Time has flown, Charles.
Yes.
What's up next? I think we're going to continue on the theme of things like failing, right? And I think we're going to talk about we failed so you don't have to.
Well, yes. So you want to talk about network performances, or you want to talk about?
Well, I'm almost tempted to switch across to this old trusty device and use our 4G network here in Australia. But look, I can only apologize, right? Things happen, and
It's
I
okay.
appreciate everybody's patience. And look, I have a little dog that's decided to join us this evening, and maybe we'll make my dogs a persistent feature. Charles, you have been really involved in the industry for a number of years, as you mentioned before, both in consulting and in innovation, in AI, ML, just a wealth of experience. And I'm sure through your career, you've absolutely never failed at anything. So
Sorry. Yes.
So maybe you could never, ever, ever. Well, let's test that. So Charles, have you had an experience where you failed?
So I'm sorry, because just because you said that you never failed, there is one memory which I find very funny. That it's not a failure directly. I mean, it was a failure, but it didn't appear like such. I want to share because this is for the age to me. At least I think I will remember that for. So when I was working in military, and it was a very serious topic, obviously, we're working for building some solutions for NATO that needed to be deployed in field of operations. And we had a visit from generals, very important people visiting us. And obviously we were not military people. We were just like tech geeks coding some system. And I recall it was not my own demonstration, but one demo, and we always talk about the demo effect. So one of another team, a friend of mine, were doing a demonstration for this general, and they knew that the solution was very, very buggy. So they were really struggling. They didn't know how they would make it work. The general arrived, and again, one of the top generals in the French army, and basically they did the demonstration, and to their own surprise, the demonstration went quite smoothly, while they were all expecting it to be a disaster. As soon as the general was very happy, left the room, and as soon as the door closed, the whole system went totally mayhem. Nothing was working anymore, totally shut down, things froze and so on. So I think it was absolutely hilarious because they really they really got saved. Everyone talks about the good demonstration, about how it's risky to do a live demonstration and so on. But for me, that was really the perfect scenario, and the whole succession of events made it so funny. And just having those guys, once the general left, who were first surprised that the demo went well, but then when just horrified that it went so bad after the door closed, was just brilliant. So my advice in terms of we fail so you don't, always be very careful with live demo, live podcast and so on. But yeah, I found it was just very funny to see the pressure relief, and actually everyone laughing about it, because it could have been a far much disaster. So yeah, that's the first thing when you mentioned that I've never failed. That's the first thing I thought about, because it was just 10 seconds before, it would have been an absolutely disaster. The program would have been shut down and everything. So sometimes things are holding to very little things.
So you just squeeze through.
Yes, exactly. You need to. That's my way of life.
Awesome. Well, the thing that always amazes me is when something fails, I can't remember a time when somebody has not said, "But I didn't change anything."
True, of course.
All right. And then you go back through the Git logs and you look at the commit messages, and indeed they did change something. And it'd be awesome if you saw a comment like this.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Also, that's a brilliant one. Yeah. And I get back to Carding's comment. This is not a bug. This is a feature.
It's a feature. Everything's a feature. But live demos are incredibly powerful, and I encourage people to do them. But it doesn't matter how much you rehearse them, how much you test them, how much faith you have in the demo gods, as we call them. always plan for failure, right? And that's kind of been a bit of a consistent message here, which means make sure you've pre-recorded a backup and that you can play a video in its place, right? So there's at least a high quality catch there for a failure. So that's certainly something that we try to do. The other thing I would also say that's really useful is every time you do a demo, make sure you record it. Record the video, record the audio, and then you've got that to replay later to other customers, to other parts of the business. That's also super useful. And that might save you if you try to do a live demo in the future of the same thing, should it fail. So, pre-record a backup. And then, if you are demoing, just record every time you demo. It's great to have that library there. So again, we would love to hear from everybody around potentially, failures that they've had as well. So, again, feel free to email us. We'd love to hear about them. Maybe we won't share your name, but we might share some anecdotes and stories that you've told us. And, we'll continue to share about our failures. I just thought I'd throw Charles under the bus. I've got some real rippers that I'd love to share in the future, and hopefully we'll have everybody with us so you can all have a good laugh at some of my disasters.
Disaster, only that.
Yeah, and you learn over time, right? Having that backup is really worthwhile. And let me say, doing demos with children, animals, and IoT devices is a bad thing. So
Which one is
I'd
the
love
worst
to share
one?
that.
Was it was it ranked? Was the list ranked in terms of dangerosity or something?
Well, there's an interesting thing. Like when you do a live demo, you really need to understand not just the technology, like that could work perfectly, but you need to also understand the physical environment that you're in. And I'll give you a real example. It was 2017. For those of you who went to Sydney Summit, AWS Summit in Sydney, 2017, there was a theme that we ran through the keynote. And Glenn Gore gave the technical keynote, and there was a bunch of technology that we demonstrated there, which was around earth, wind, and fire, and how we can sort of monitor those aspects using IoT. So, myself and a few other people, we built all of that technology, and it was awesome. It worked great until it got into the physical environment, and there were a whole bunch of things like indoor high-powered 3 and 4G base stations in there, and really high-power Wi-Fi, and lots of microphones for the stage crew. And before we knew it, we had massive packet loss within that environment. So, we had to really quickly pivot the whole solution from a wireless Wi-Fi solution to wired, right? And we had all of these big physical devices and lights and smoke and all of these things. So we had to make that pivot. And I can tell you, I was sitting there in the front row. I had my fingers crossed. I had my toes crossed. I crossed my eyelashes. I was like, oh, please work, please work, please work. It was all right on the night, but that was one of those really high risk sort of environments where, we were like 2 seconds to midnight from failure, right? It was really, really on the edge. So the message there is deeply understand the physical environment that you're going into as well, and make sure you give yourself plenty of time. And excuse me, by all means, if you can, go wired, avoid Wi-Fi, avoid LoRa, go wired. It's a much safer approach.
I will next time I will need to tell you about the story when I was having a robot bartender which exploded in the US in my hotel room after being accused of being a drug smuggler at the border. So I will tell you that next time.
I've now figured out, actually, we said we're gonna learn as we do these live streams. I've now learned what this section is about. This is about the weirdest technology experiences you can have. So I absolutely want to hear about your exploding bartender robot. And I'm waiting
just to think about it.
And I'm gonna double down and see if I can beat you with a visit from Homeland Security in the United States in the hotel room. So I think this is going to be around hotel experiences with technology, right? So let's cover those off. Hey Charles, look, we're coming to the end of our time together. I've enjoyed it. I've had a great time.
That was awesome.
How do people stay in touch with us? What's coming up next? Talk us through a bit of the future.
Yeah, so what's coming next is obviously we are trying to get this episode going on at the monthly level, at the monthly frequency. To reach out to us, obviously the email address, there is also the website, theprototypingshow.com. So the email address being theprototypingshow@amazon.com. You can reach out. I think you have our personal details on the website also. Don't hesitate to reach out. Send us, again, we mentioned a lot, the code commits, share about your failures, not in life in general. That may be out of my my way of understanding and things, but yeah, don't hesitate. We want to make it interactive. We will start looking at the hands-on parts also. So yeah, we're very happy to have Sara today. Check out her at I was about to say Spotify, but all the different channels, the Innovation Ambassador, that's super cool content also. And hopefully we can, you will join us next month at the same time. Are we third? I don't remember what is the date. We're fourth week of
the last Thursday, Thursday of every month. Sorry, at this time. Yeah, it was a bit of a hook, by the way. Yes, indeed. Not for next week, but for next month. So we're looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I have absolutely had a ball. I can't wait to do more of these. I can't wait to see everybody join us again. I hope everybody stays well, stays safe, and thanks for joining the Prototyping Show.
Thanks, everyone.